Welcome, friends, to another Reapers review. Doug Turner, Reapers Moon Productions, Andre Cato, Stephen Hido.
Hey.
Today we are taking one right in the childhood. We're looking at formative films or stories or movies that, came along at a time in our life and inspired us in a certain way. So we're going to keep it, broad, but also looking at, I think, Steve, you mentioned, like, we can't just be picking something we saw when we were 22 or whatever. It's kind of got to be something that shaped us in some way or whatever.
I'm thinking before 18, but
yeah. And it's different for everybody, but again, we want something that laid the groundwork to inspire you in another way later in life, that type of thing. So those are the type of films. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Cool. We're running with the regular 10 format, starting with my number 10. This film featured two future American politicians, governors. I am talking about Running Man, of course. Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura, Jim Brown, Dawson. To me, I saw this when I was, and there was other Schwarzenegger action films I loved growing up, Predator, Commando, but this one I think I watched the most because just when I saw it, it just appealed to me so much. It's like The Price is Right with the gladiator death scenes, at the age of 11 or 12, and it was just like, I don't really need anything else in life. So I watched it on repeat. That was just kind of the first action flick that I was obsessed with at a young age. So that would be Running Man, my number 10.
Yeah, concept that's aged well, too.
Yeah,
not as ridiculous as it was then.
We're almost
it's almost there.
Yeah, we're about to start it up. Yeah, with Schwarzenegger taking on the Richard Dawson role.
Yeah.
Cool. Number 10.
My number 10 is something that was just fun. I've always liked espionage and intrigue, and felt that if it were safer, I probably would have been not a police officer, but a detective or a spy. And that is Cloak and Dagger.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Cloak and Dagger with Dabney Coleman. It just was, I don't know what was happening at that point in my life. Nothing too traumatic yet, I think, but it was something that was, it just had that mystique and that romanticized, like, spy versus spy thing. The imaginary friend for Elliot that wasn't an alien that scared the hell out of me when I got home.
Yeah.
Because when I saw E.T., I was looking around corners at nighttime. And I think it's all the fictional fun that you want as a child and as you're a growing artist.
Sure. So and what age would you say was that around?
When I saw Cloak and Dagger, I was probably somewhere around 9 or 10 years old.
Okay. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And they ran it on ABC, so
yeah. Nice.
Public service announcement. I didn't rate these movies in terms of 1 through 10. I just rated them in terms of when I saw them.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that's how it worked in my brain.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. God bless you, Andre. So my first, God, how many times did I watch this movie? Had all the toys, had all, man, you always was stealing my mother's feather duster because that one guy had that like weird whip thing that looked like a feather duster. This movie just meant an incredible amount to me. My kind of introduction to like monsters and just like Harryhausen and just like how in awe I was of like the spectacle of it all. Clash of the Titans. Just, man.
No kidding. Wow.
I could not watch that movie enough. Yep. The owl, fuck yeah. I mean, just talk about, like, the effects working on me exactly as they should have.
Okay.
And
would you say under 10? Were you pretty young? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I saw that at the drive-in.
Nice. Okay, consider yourself blessed. Because, that is a fun movie. And to this day, this movie's just a riot.
My number 9, Menace to Society, the Hughes brothers. So, it's been written about or talked about how in the 90s there was kind of a reset with violence. Like in the 80s you had just oiled up dudes with Uzis just like shooting everybody and like whatever happened to those people that got shot? We don't know. The movie just keeps going. With Tarantino and some other filmmakers in the 90s, you had a little bit of slowing down and like, no, you're going to feel that gut shot or that type of thing. For me, that reset happened not with Tarantino, but with Menace to Society.
That movie really messed you up.
Yeah, I came off of, again, watching like Running Man and Predator and those type of action movies. And that was one, and I'd seen horror movies where I'm like, I'm not scared of Freddy or Jason anymore. And that one, with the shooting at the 7-Eleven or the deli, and the fact that O-Dog keeps watching the tapes, like that just, the violence of that appealed to me on a visceral level, where I was kind of desensitized, I think, with a lot of other stuff. And then when I got a little bit older, when I was driving, I would ask my friends for snaps on the Petro, meaning like who's going to fill in on gas. Like, I'm 16, I'm driving, like who's got snaps on the Petro? Nobody, nobody ever had snaps on the Petro.
You were so street, Doug.
Yeah, nobody ever had it.
Program
There was
snaps.
no snap was ever given forth for any Petro at all.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's at number 9.
I'm gonna say Pretty in Pink.
Nice.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, actually, it's a. It probably there are other Brat Pack, more prominent Brat Pack movies that are able to fill that slot or even higher, but that one in particular is one that my sister thoroughly enjoys, and for some reason I find that I don't know, even away from people you love, that's a way of connecting.
Yeah,
And the fact that sometimes something's enjoyable, and that movie stands on its own as a rom-com, and I'm a romance lover and all that stuff of that nature.
Cool.
And great music.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Cool, number 9.
I tried to not have movies on this list that would be like on my top 20 of all time because
Okay.
it's kind of like no shit. Well, this was an exception. The Warriors. You know, when my brother Paul introduced me to this movie, it was kind of like my introduction to movies as a method of communication. To this day, you know, me and Paul can be in a room and just say lines from this movie, and like that's our conversation
Sure,
for
yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
that 6 months time period. I think the first time I ever directed anything was like me like telling the kids on my street, like, okay, we have to like recreate the scene in the cemetery. Okay, we have to recreate like the Fury chase. Like, dude, run faster. The fucking Furies are after us. What are you doing? You need to take this serious. Just, yeah.
Okay.
This movie is just an impeccable piece of American art. And yeah, just one that means the world to me.
All right, my last one was Menace to Society. So, of course, my number 8 is the 10 Commandments.
Naturally.
Following up.
Thou shalt not kill.
It's just how life works.
Nice.
You know, it was fairly religious in my household, especially when I was younger. So there was a time prior to being allowed to watch Running Man or other action movies where movies like the 10 Commandments were just kind of on a loop. I think it played every Easter, but then eventually we just got it and it just played on a loop. And, you know, it's not something I'm going to go back and watch very often, but as I got older, I still respect the performances. And it's funny that certain people are in it, like G. Robinson, and just the spectacle of it, the DeMille, just Hollywood 50s spectacle is still very fascinating to me, and I appreciate that part of it after all these years. So,
Powerful, it's evocative.
It still works in its own way. Yeah.
Extremely cinematic.
movie stars, you know, it's just, it has a lot going on. And it was something, again, it was always on as a kid, and as I grew older, I appreciate it. I'm not going to watch it all the time, but it's definitely something that was part of my childhood.
So next for me is Hollywood Shuffle.
All right.
Hollywood
Nice.
Shuffle was zany. It was silly. It was quite remarkable at adjudicating the climate and times of the world and of Hollywood, especially on the racial side of things. And, you know, just a kind of choose you this day who you will serve, which master you're going to have. And them choosing to kind of not only demonstrate in the film, taking the ball and trying to score, but actually making their own way. Later, it would heavily influence me, but first was the work. I fell in love with and was just thoroughly entertained by that movie.
My number 8. Talk about seeing a movie at being the exact right age to see a movie. The star of this movie is one of the stars is the same exact age as me. So, man, it just hit me like a ton of bricks when Lucas Haas sees, that murder happen in the bathroom, and he's just like, holy crap, I want my mom to protect me. Man, I was with that kid. Witness, 1985, just, had the perfect effect on me. And just such a great movie, but had that perfect effect on me because I was just like that kid's age. And just, to this day, I can't pee at a urinal because I'm afraid Danny Glover's going to come up behind me, put that bag on my head and slit my throat. I will not do it.
Is there a term for that fear?
I don't know.
Glove of foot, something or other?
Yeah.
I hope it has the word piss in it.
A psychologist smarter than me may have to come up with one. Because, every time people talk about, I'll never go, in the ocean. I can, because of Jaws. I can deal with that, but nope, no urinal. Danny Glover might be behind me, yeah. Fuck no. God.
No, my number 7, moving on to number 7, is Batman, 1989, the Tim Burton one. Growing up, to me, comic book movies or shows were pretty bad. In the 80s, they all kind of felt like the Ferrigno Hulk.
Okay.
Where they just were kind of like, okay. And then comic book cartoons were okay. There was a really good Batman cartoon I remember in the 80s/90s. So when this movie came out, I'm definitely one of those people where, like, when people say who's Batman, I just think Michael Keaton. I know it's kind of an argument these days, but that's just to me, that was it.
I haven't seen all these other Batmans, but I feel like it's being denied that everyone is basing their Batman on Michael Keaton.
I feel like you have to just deal with it, the fact that his exists. If you try to ignore it, then you're in trouble. I don't know.
He was the first one to play it as an actual human being.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So-
My number 7 is Elizabeth Shue, Adventures in Babysitting.
Nice.
Just again, that I don't know. I guess I had more of a need for like fantasy life in that way as a child. I just wanted to. It was really an escape vehicle and just a fun. To me, when people talk about the movies being fun, that is quintessential for me at that time. Fun.
Absolutely.
And that was at Southgate.
Southgate, yep. Nice. Yeah, one of those movies where, particularly at that age, you watch that movie and you want to go get into an adventure.
Yes.
It's like a physical response you have. You want to, like, go get, have the bad guys after me, climb on that beam, and then drop the thing in the coffee. And it's just, It's an exhilarating movie.
It's
and
exhilarating.
I don't say that like to be funny.
It's clever and it's funny.
Yeah.
Don't nobody leave here without singing the blues.
Yeah. Okay, my next one, showing a little maturity. The first Best Picture winner that I saw at the theater, out of Africa. 1985, my mom took me to see this, thinking that I would be like, wrapped up in the spectacle, in the, in the animals, in the Africanness of it. She wanted to see the love story, and I remember this movie very fondly. Like, obviously I've seen it since, but I remember the experience of seeing, a 2 hour and 40-minute kind of slow-moving love story when I was 10 and 9 and not being bored.
Wow.
So, so I've always just admired, this is one of those movies where people kind of talk shit of and say it was Oscar bait, blah, 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 blah. I love this movie, and, I think it works so well.
Nice. My number 6, Jeremiah Johnson.
Nice. A lot of
Sidney
Redford
Pollock. Yeah.
Redford and Pollock.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So when I was a kid, like 5 or 6, at my grandparents' house, they would always put it on. And at that age, I really didn't. There was just this movie they would put on with the guy with the beard. And then eventually, like around 7 or 8, I started watching it, and I was like, "This is awesome." Just getting into the Jeremiah, just that character who goes away and gets in the mountains, and then there's a lot of interesting side characters in it. The one Del Gue, the guy with the shaved head and the big mustache. My brother and I really thought he was like an engaging and kind of fun, larger than life character. So it's one that, it still holds up. It's still an interesting story. It's not something I'm going to watch all the time, but it's just in my childhood, I just remember like, oh, that movie's on again where that bearded guy is in the mountains and like, what is he doing? And then eventually I got into it as I got a little bit older. So that would be my number 6, Jeremiah Johnson.
Coming up in number 6 is The Untouchables. Ooh. You talked about being a movie at the right time, a movie with violence and just like got your mouth watering for this like bloodlust. And a sense of justice, which never is lost on me, is The Untouchables. I didn't know De Palma like you did back then.
Well, I didn't back then either, but
contrary to I don't know what this rap thing is and this modern thing of like Scarface. He did Scarface, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't popping like that back then. So my introduction probably was The Untouchables, and they just caught me with the story. I mean, the score, just enough hints. The relationship with his wife, they definitely use the wife and child as a device to kind of tug at your heartstrings. The fact that you never know what's going to happen. You don't see it coming. As they say, anybody could get it and did, from the accountant to Malone. And to me, that stroller scene at the rail is... Yeah, you could tell I'm back in 8th grade. That was my summer of 8th grade going into 9th grade, and I watched that movie along with The Doors and one other movie that might make my list. It was on, as you say, a loop. I watched that all summer.
Nice.
Number 6. This movie was a must on this list, was because it was a formative theater going experience. It was at the Mapletown. It was a second-run theater. The theater was packed. Me and my parents. I'm not going to say we were the only white people in there, but we were. It was a very, gregarious crowd who was not afraid to feel what they were feeling. And it was like this movie had this crowd so in the palm of their hand. Every scare, every laugh, you could just like, it was like being in a wave of emotion, and it was just exhilarating. And I will never, ever, ever forget it. The 1985 Stephen King adaptation, Silver Bullet. Like, I've never seen a movie have a crowd. You know, there's all that bullshit, like at the Cannes Film Festival, you know, they clapped for this movie for 12 minutes, and it's like, yeah, whatever. Nothing can compare it to the way this movie had that crowd in the palm of its hand that night. Wow. So I will just always remember that, yeah. And just such a fun movie.
All right, moving on to the second half. My number 5, the inspiration for my look here is Backdraft. When you grow up the child of a firefighter, you watch Backdraft, or at least you did at that time. There's all sorts of, you know, cop and movies and cop shows that come out.
Yeah,
but
cops.
with firefighter, it's just not the same. Yeah. You don't have the same plot devices. So when this came out, it was a big deal in the firefighting community, and you know we watched it a lot. I'm not specifically dressed as a character in this one. It's just the firefighter look, and I have my grandfather, rest in peace, my mother's father, was a Cleveland firefighter. He made it all the way up to battalion chief. This is his helmet. And then my dad is a retired firefighter also. And this is his show, the shirt I'm wearing, Firehouse Dining. So check that out, Firehouse Dining with Doug Turner Sr. and Mark Famiano. That's out there. So just a shout out to them. Again, with the film, the film, there's some great performances in it. Donald Sutherland in particular scared the crap out of me as a kid in that film. You know, I asked my dad, like, I wanted backdrafts to be like a more prevalent thing, like in the world. And he's just kind of like, no, it doesn't really, you know, like fires always do weird things, but like the perfect, like, backdraft as a plot device isn't quite going to pop up in life, you know.
In honor of my last visit here for an episode, I believe that there were documentaries placed on the list, and someone remain nameless said that they would do whatever they wanted to do.
I may recall that.
I'm making a nod and an homage to the Act of Rebellion by making a 2 for 1.
All right.
House Party 1 and 2.
All right.
Shout out Grandma and Bradley. I was 7th grade. No, about to be in 3rd grade.
There you go.
On the precipice of going into 8th grade, and you think you're like actually becoming a man at that age. And I was taken to Southgate again. To see this outstanding, colorful, bright, vivid, fast-moving film with a lot of memorable characters. And you couldn't help but appreciate the bullies, even though you wanted to see them get theirs by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And you love the idea of like, oh, I'm sneaking into this teenage world and watching all this stuff go along. You know?
Very nice. Yeah, the New York Times says hip hop hooray because they put hip hop in there.
It's so hip hop centric. And at one
point, the white person who wrote that was probably thinking they were like,
MC Shan said he was supposed to be in it, and I think at one point there was a discussion about it being the Fresh Prince.
Okay,
of
I could totally see them trying to get him for sure.
I could see it, but I could never see them pulling it off that way.
Yeah,
I couldn't see
probably
Jazzy
number one though.
That's for you. You watched that at Thanksgiving.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
My number 5. I hope this poor woman never sees this episode because she'll probably call the FBI on us due to all the prurient attention she's getting on it. But yes, this movie made my list because it was indeed like the first time I like legit fell in love with a screen presence. From, you know, the second that note of the first song hits and the second she, you know, leaps into the camera frame, it was done. It was done. Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, done. Boom. The first time I was like, oh my God. I've never seen anything that beautiful, and yeah, just done. And the movie was fun, but man, that was one you just like were at school the next day being like, holy crap, that woman was gorgeous and charismatic and just like, yow.
I just want to say, damn, Elizabeth Shue, I thought it was me.
No.
Well, my number 4, we talked about a little bit about breaking some rules, and I think the 2 for 1 is totally cool. We'll allow it. We rock that out. So here I am going to break a rule and bring up a documentary only because of how important it was in ending the Cold War. And I'm talking about Rocky IV. The film or documentary, I should say, that single-handedly ended things. Those Ruskies were getting a little big in their britches. And, taking steroids. They didn't think we had somebody we can send to the mountains to lift logs, but we did. Rocky Balboa, he's got your number, boy. I don't know why this one stuck out more than the other Rockies, because I was kind of watching all of them, but just something about just like, oh, they killed his friend, and like now he's going to like train with logs in the mountains and just, gets to a 10-year-old kid or whatever it is. So Rocky IV was just one of those ones I watched a bunch of times and can quote everything, and just a fun, very accurate documentary.
Yeah, and I joke about it to like hide my trauma, as I often do, but like I legit, like Apollo's death fucked me up.
Oh yeah,
I literally didn't sleep for like 2 weeks, and my
You're
parents
like, throw in the damn towel, like come on.
And my parents were asking me what's wrong, and I felt awkward being like, I can't take Apollo Creed's death. So I was like, no, I'm okay. But my mom could tell something was wrong. She was like, is something wrong, honey? I was like, I'm good. I'm good. No. And my mom knew something.
He dies. He dies.
Well, in the spirit of great documentaries, The Last Polka. Now, I had already seen SCTV as a child, just around the time of when we got cable. So SNL, SCTV prepared me for The Last Polka, which is a mockumentary about two brothers, the Schmengi brothers, played by Eugene Levy and John Candy.
Okay.
As they go into their grand finale, their farewell concert. And it's a review of everything that's happened over their lifetime and the grand spectacle that this finale is going to be. Okay. Including Rick Moranis, the Lemon Twins.
Yeah, that's a movie that you actually turned me on to.
Yes.
That needs like a Criterion release, and I'm saying that without a smile. Like that needs to be a thing that like more people are paying attention to. The movie that made me think about movies as, I don't want to say a work of art in like a pompous way, but it made me think about movies as a series of decisions that are made in order to get this thing on the screen. Yeah. In terms of like, okay, this guy's acting a little over the top. That was a decision. This scene is shot this way. When people lose their minds, it cuts to like that, the comic book backdrop. That's a decision. The little like panels. Everything's a decision. And so that's really the movie that got me thinking of, every shot is a decision. And they all get cut together, and it's good or it's bad.
My number 3, The Princess Bride. This one was on when Steve and I did Top 10 Love Stories, this was on there, so I kind of didn't want to include it here, but you can't remove something from your childhood. Yeah. So this is one of those movies to me, like if you grew up with it or you saw it in a certain time, you're cool. If you kind of didn't see it till you're 25, you're like, what the hell is this nonsense? Absolutely. And it's just one of those movies, and I just happened to grow up with it, rewatching it as a kid. It's one of those ones that feels very messy and imperfect, but somehow also perfect when you put it all together.
Yeah, William Goldman's a masterful storyteller. The guy who wrote the novel and the script, and yeah, that's just.
It was a novel. I didn't know.
Even though it's goofy, yeah, I think it started as a novel.
Okay.
Of his, yeah, and that just, even though that's not All the President's Men, it comes through just what a good writer he is.
I have an exciting list, and again, this for me is like doing the NBA draft.
I'm glad you think your own list is exciting.
It's happening as we speak. Yeah.
My list is awesome.
If I do say so myself, Dead Poet Society.
Oh, Peter Weir.
Nice.
There's no way not to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Eloquent. The setting it takes you, obviously, we're in the city, in a working class entering suburb. You're not in this idyllic setting like that. So growing up driving through Cleveland Heights and Shaker, I kind of had an affinity for that look, and also being out in the metro park. So it was like lush and beautiful and picturesque. All of the guys they felt like dudes I knew. And the struggles they were going through, like any of us, to find ourselves at that age and to kind of lock in onto maybe what you're good at or great at, who your friends are, learning what a frenemy is, and a backstabbing bastard, and also what's the choices you're going to make when you're standing on your principles in the face of the fire. And it just works its way out, and it takes you into the drama and down into the valley of death, and then it brings you back up, baptized and even better than before when it's over with.
Yeah, talk about a movie I shouldn't have been watching when I was 12, but I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and that definitely has its advantages. One of those advantages is just being able to watch Last House on the Left in your room alone on a VCR, because that exists, and your mom's like, what are you watching in there? And you're just like, holy fucking shit. I don't know, but I probably shouldn't be. But I'm okay. But yeah, this is one of those movies where no matter what age you first see it at, it's probably like, wow, that's powerful. I've never seen, like, that is a unique level of raw visceral, just like terrifying violence, and it just kind of depresses me and shocks me. But when you're 12, holy crap. Yeah. This movie just completely just, warped my mind, hopefully for the better, but I guess others can be the judge of that. But yeah, Last House on the Left when you're 12.
Jumping into my number 2, Cool Hand Luke, 1967. If there was ever a film kind of where I remember sitting down with my dad and him just kind of like presenting it like it's Cool Hand Luke.
Okay.
I remember specifically him talking me through the Shake in the Bush scene because I was like 9 and maybe not old enough to like get that he was stealing the keys from the trucks and like setting up his escape during all that stuff. So I remember my dad talking me through that stuff, and it's just one that strikes me like, so I saw it as a kid, I saw it as a teenager, I saw it in my 20s, I saw it in my 30s, and it never loses any of the luster that it had ever since I was a kid. It's just one of those great movie star performances, and just for the story that it tells, it feels very complete. I mean, I know that the term perfect movie gets thrown around a lot, but it definitely feels like a movie that knows what it's trying to do and doesn't have a lot of loose ends or anything like that. And it's just an American classic. Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah.
I'm playing around with this, so I'm going to throw in something I didn't see coming myself, a movie that I had no business watching at under 10. Porky's 1 and 2. I'm not doing both of them. Porky's 2.
Okay.
Bob
And-
Clark. Porky's 2. Wow, okay.
Bob Clark, who I had the privilege of working with.
What?
Because when we did that, when they did It Runs in the Family, he was the director.
Oh, shit. Okay.
He was roaming around the city streets of Cleveland.
Yeah.
But it definitely was fun. It definitely was a lot of sophomoric hijinks. And at the time, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'm not unlike Steven's horror exploration. I'm pretty sure I know that warped me.
Okay, my next one. Talk about a movie that about a connection with another human being, and that you'll always relate a movie with a person. Me and my dad saw this movie 9 times at the theater together. So I mean, American classic, the highest order. We try to stay away from perfect movie, but what the fuck else do you call Die Hard?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There is not, a second of this movie that's imperfect. So it just means an incredible amount to me, to my dad. He was a cop at the time and he got in free. So just like, once a week, it was like, want to go see Die Hard?
Cops get in free for the movies or for Die Hard?
Like just Die Hard.
Bruce Willis said it. Make it happen.
Yeah.
And just, a pivotal movie for me. A perfect, action movie, showed, the humanity of the lead. He wasn't just trying to be macho. He was an actual human being who was scared and confused and uncertain of what the hell he was going to do. It wasn't, Commando, where it's like, I'll just shoot all these people and then I'll go home on the helicopter. And Alan Rickman, just talk about the, people always say, you got to have a good bad guy. You got to have a good bad guy.
Great bad guy.
They don't always have a good bad guy. Holy shit. The character of Hans, just
That's
like every time he opens his mouth, I laugh out loud. It's just how cool and intelligent and urbane and just, oh my God, that performance.
Okay, for my number 1, this movie, without it, there might not be a Reaper's Moon Productions. And the effect it had on me when I was 6 years old. It's called Watership Down. Most people don't know what it is or haven't heard of it. It was made in 1978. It's a cartoon based on a novel.
I've never heard of it.
It's with cartoon rabbits.
Okay.
And they basically murder each other.
I have to see this thing.
So I was 6 years old. My grandmother didn't know.
Okay.
She put it on for me while she was in the kitchen. And I was just kind of like sitting there in front of the TV, just like swirlies in my eyes, just like zoned out to like this violent psychedelic.
Is it a feature length?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a feature length.
Okay.
And it's
like I've
supposedly
seen
it's
clips from
about
this. I think
like
I've seen
supposedly it's like about fascism or something.
Okay.
But it's just to me, I was 6 years old and there's rabbits murdering each other. So
Wow, okay.
I became obsessed with drawing rabbits for years. I would just draw a rabbit, grab another piece of paper, draw another rabbit, grab another piece of paper, draw rabbits. So for years, and it probably kind of gave me a little bit of a psychedelic, violent type bent to my artistic stuff, and that's just
Here we are. I know you're not a huge movie poster guy, but I'm gonna look for a movie poster of that for you, and like it's going up in your den.
Okay. You gotta have that.
Yeah,
You
like
gotta
that's
have
gotta
that.
happen. Yeah.
Come on down, ladies and gentlemen, to the movie emporium. You want to be a ladies' man? You want to be a stylish man? You want to be debonair? Then you want to see Boomerang, baby. Everything. everything. It's like Visa. It's everywhere you want to be. You want to be informed on next level adulthood? Boomerang. You want to be top-notch earner? Boomerang. You want to be at the pinnacle of creativity and debauchery, but subtly? Boomerang. You want Halle Berry at your crib and your lap? Boomerang.
Number one. That's okay. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's a great, I don't know if it's a defiant romantic comedy, but the way that the boy loses the girl and then how they manage for him to get back with the girl, I think is kind of cool.
So you go House Party 2 is college, House Party's high school, House Party 2 is college, and then Boomerang is like, now we're entering adulthood. Okay.
Look at him. This is why you love him. This is why you love him.
Trilogy.
Yeah, I guess, yes. And
you're ready to be an adult.
You're ready to be an adult. Great characters.
All right, all questions answered. Okay, my number one, a movie that really showed me that it really is all about execution. You know, there's a lot of, people talk about, a good idea. A good idea is, the whole some way, but it really is all about execution. And the 1972 movie Frogs is the one that taught me that it's all about execution. That, there's a way you could make a movie about a family of rich people getting killed by reptiles and make it very pedestrian, make it very like, okay, I guess that was okay. But what this movie does, just in terms of its tone, in terms of its themes, in terms of its characters, how like what it says about race and class, and just how like the Jason Crockett character is just such a tragic figure who's just sitting in his crumbling mansion. It's like the old South is gone, but he's clinging to it. It's just, there's so much going on while people are getting killed by reptiles that that's the one that taught me that like it's about how you do it. It's
execute.
about how you do it, yes. Yeah. And this movie is just so, this movie's never made my top 20, but hopefully before I die, this movie will make my top 20 because it deserves it.
Right on. Well, that was our top 10 formative films from the childhood. So you know a little bit more about us, what shaped us along the way. I learned a little bit more about you guys, what shaped you. Interesting films. I like how we had a couple that, are considered mainstream movies, but then we also had some that people maybe have never heard of or whatever. Gonna have to check out.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Sweet. Doug Turner, Reaper's Moon Productions, Andre Cato, Stephen Hido, gents. Always a blast. I appreciate it. Yeah. Love it. Let's do some more down the road. We'll have more content, more reviews, maybe some interviews. Who knows? Yeah. Had a great time. Thank you, everyone, again. We'll see you next time. Signing off. Peace.